Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Andrew Zerhide here another week. And Andrew, unfortunately fortunately for my old co-host Dave, he doesn't have to be here to face the music. New York Jets get beat pretty badly on Sunday or Saturday against the Patriots. Not a lot to analyze that game, really. The Patriots just, we were talking about it earlier, it wasn't that exciting, but clearly they were the dominant team on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets and Patriots, not the best matchup for the Pats. It wasn't too hard for them, but they did look good. Tom was definitely on point, and LeGarrette Blount was good again, and Edelman looked good, but the defense really stepped up, only allowed the 3 points. And McCourty, they're all rolling. They're really starting to click. But again, I mean, the Jets, not the best matchup, so a little easier for them.
But they did what they needed to do.
Yep.
And that's the thing in this NFL season. A lot of people will say, who have you beaten? They haven't beaten a lot of good teams, but there's not a lot of good teams out there. And we'll get into that maybe a little bit about the playoffs. But if you talk about the playoffs, who do you think poses the biggest challenge in this AFC? Once they get to the NFC, if they get to the Super Bowl, there's a few teams around there. But in the AFC, it's not really anybody that scares you.
Yeah, there's really not too many teams. I mean, the Raiders were the team to beat besides the Patriots, but now that Carr has gone down and most likely will be gone throughout the playoffs, there's really not that one team. I would say probably the Steelers would probably pose the biggest threat, but the Pats have done really well against them in the past. But it's hard to say. Steelers, maybe the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the Chiefs because they do look good. Their offense looks good, beating the Broncos, scoring 33 points against them. But really, if you're going to get into a shootout with the Patriots, it's going to be tough to win that game. And they both have good defense, Patriots and the Chiefs. But Chiefs or Steelers, probably. But then both games would be at home. Patriots would have home field over both of them.
Right.
So then again, maybe it's the Patriots. Easy road to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like it. And, there have been past playoffs where we felt the same way and the Pats have kind of fell off toward the AFC Championship game. But, I mean, really, the Pats should easily make the Super Bowl. I mean, it might not be a complete cakewalk against the Steelers or the Chiefs, but to me, they're the favorite in the AFC by far.
Okay, so if they get to the Super Bowl, even winning it or even getting there, and they've done this basically without Gronk for most of the season, missing the first few games, missing the second part of the season, where does that put the Patriots going forward? Do they kind of say, well, we don't really need you? Obviously, we're better with you, but is it worth the headache?
Yeah, it's tough with Gronk. Obviously, you want him to be healthy all season long, and he's an all-star, one of the best tight ends in the history of the game. But if you're only going to get him for half the season every year, you really need to maximize his value. So it's hard to say, do you trade him, try to get some picks in the draft, some first-round picks, or do you stick with him and just try to keep him healthy? He really looks for contact, so he is a guy who is injury-prone. Not that his body is failing him necessarily. It's just he does look for contact and is a very aggressive player.
And that's the problem. He doesn't go out of his way to avoid the contact.
Right.
And he's going to have to start doing that if he wants to really stay long-term in the NFL as a whole. Forget about just the Patriots. If he's going to want to stay in the NFL at all. Okay, so maybe do we see the situation where he comes back next year, plays for a few games, and then if he's playing well, they trade him mid-season? Because we've seen Belichick do that. He's not afraid to do that with some of his superstars.
Yeah, that would really, I mean, if Gronk is having a season that Gronk can have and they trade him away, that really is maximizing his value, trading him when he's at his best. But that's really going to sting the most for Pats fans to see him go. But, Belichick is not afraid to do that. It's his team. He knows what he's doing. So, I put complete trust in Bill, but it would definitely sting to see Gronk go.
And it seems like this year they haven't really been. We've seen better teams. Let's just put it that way. We've seen Patriots have better teams. But the fact that the competition level in the AFC is not really that good, as you mentioned, the Jets, and now they play the Dolphins this week. Do you think they rest some of those players trying to make sure they don't get hurt? Or is it Belichick's way? He says, hey, it's all systems go. We got to play a game. We're going to prepare for it and try and win the game.
I think Bill will try to win the game, but some players who are especially banged up, I think they probably should rest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of their second-string guys could probably get the job done. Bill has always chosen a lot of very good quality backups. So to me, they should rest the guys who are really banged up, but I think I'm sure Tom will probably play.
Do you think he plays maybe a half, maybe the first half, and hands it off a lot?
Right, yeah, definitely going to be a lot of running the ball. But, we'll see how Tom feels. I mean, if he feels good to go, I'm sure he'll play as much as he wants to play.
Right.
But, I'm sure he'll at least play the first half.
Yeah, I think he'll play a good portion of the first half, and like you said, it's what Tom wants, and they'll go from there. So the Patriots' road to the Super Bowl looks pretty decent, but once they get there, if they do, who will they face from the NFC side? We'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.